Slay the Princesses' long-awaited Pristine cut has just been released, so I'm releasing somewhat timely content for once. I've played through each of the new and updated routes a few times and have seen a few different versions of each. This won't be a totally complete look at the update because I haven't seen literally every option you can take in each route, but I've seen plenty to feel comfortable sharing my thoughts on the new content. This update also heralds the release of the game on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4 and 5, and Xbox One/Series X/S. So if you're a console player who hadn't heard of the game at all until this update brought it to systems other than the PC, and you've stumbled across this video trying to figure out if you should buy it, yes, please do. It's very good. If you haven't seen my original video covering Slay the Princess, I'll link it in the description below. I will be talking about how some of this new content fits in with my interpretation of the original game, so at the very least, you should be familiar with the original version of the game and its endings. This video is going to talk in depth about all the major new content in Pristine Cut, so be wary of spoilers for both that and the original game if you want to go in blind. Also, Slay the Princess is a horror game, so be ready for some body horror and general unpleasantness going in. Now, let's get into it by first talking about some of the routes that have been greatly overhauled and expanded. 3 of the possible versions of Chapter 3 have been greatly expanded in the Pristine Cut. These are the Fury, the Den, and the Apotheosis. The first of these, which we'll be talking about, is the Fury. The Fury route is achieved by first killing the princess but dying yourself, then refusing to give the adversary a good fight, either by stubbornly fighting her unarmed or by attempting to run away. The Fury was already the most visceral body horror in the game, rivaled only by the Razor. For one thing, her dress in this version is made of her own flayed skin, and speaking of degloving, like the Razor, she does. The problem with the original version of the Fury was that it ended almost as soon as it began. You would encounter the Fury, and then almost immediately, she would make you explode into a pile of still living viscera. In the original game, as soon as she unravels you like this, the route is over. She threatened to keep you alive while deconstructing you and putting you back together over and over again, but is cut off by the shifting mound before she actually gets the chance. In the new version of the Fury, she gets the chance. We actually get to see her deconstruct and reform the Long Quiet over and over and over again, with some deeply unsettling abstract meat art and some phenomenal descriptions. This is an excellent addition to the game because it's what the Fury feels like she was always meant to be, the epitome of this game's abstract body horror. There's now a part where she is shaving cells off of you. First 1, then 2, then 4, which is utterly inconsequential, then 8, then 16, then 32, continuing to double and quickly reaching the hundreds of millions. Then there's a part where she deconstructs and reforms you into abstract shapes over and over again. A cube, a sphere, and so on. Finally, there's a part where she stretches you into a line of flesh, pulling you across 12 feet, then 24, until you're finally miles across, and eventually atomized. This is brutal and sickening in the best way. Throughout all of this, she keeps asking, "Are you still there? Are you still you?" This is so effective. In terms of pure horror, this might be the best content in the game. That phrase, "Are you still there? Are you still you?" hits on the underlying terror that I think body horror can be used very effectively to communicate. What is a person? Are they their flesh? Are they all of their flesh? Is your arm or your foot you? Instinctively, we would say that it's a part of you, but then if your arm is stripped away, if your foot is stripped away, are you still you? Yes, right? At what point, then, does the machine stop working? What is the specific moment where you stop being a person and become only flesh? It really reminds me a lot of the more abstract and horrifying body horror moments from the Hannibal TV show. I love this. This is why I love body horror. Asking the question of whether your body is you, or if you're just a brain piloting a flesh mech. It's unsettling. It makes me queasy, but also gives me a lot to think about. I first played this with the voice of the broken and the voice of the stubborn. I think it's a really interesting touch that the voice of the stubborn does end up giving up eventually, as you are stretched across miles, but the voice of the broken never does. He's already empty. He can't be broken any further. He can't give up and submit because he already has. There's nothing left for him to surrender. It's really good. There's also a dramatically different version of this route if you wind up here with the voice of the contrarian rather than the voice of the broken. This is what happens if you reach this route by choosing to fight the adversary barehanded over and over again. In this version of the route, when the Fury unravels you into a pile of viscera, you can stubbornly get up anyway and begin shambling towards her. She'll react to this by first flaying what is left of your skin from your body, then, when you continue marching forward, removing all of your muscle. Now, as you're nothing but organs in a skeletal cage, it would seem impossible for you to do anything, but with the power of the stubborn and the contrarian, you are somehow able to keep shambling towards her to go for her heart. When you try this, she will finally dissolve what's left of you, leaving you as nothing at all. The stubborn and the contrarian aren't willing to give up, even if there's nothing left of you, though, and so you finally strike at her heart with threads of nothingness itself, pieces of the long quiet which the construct is made up from, and claim victory against the Fury. While the other version of this route speaks to me a little more, this version with the contrarian is also extremely good. The updated version of this route is an absolutely phenomenal addition to this game. I love it. I love everything about it. The second route to receive a major overhaul is the Den, which is reached via the Beast route. This is the one where the princess has become completely bestial, taking the form of some sort of non-verbal chimera that acts purely on instinct to try to devour you. Picking out what's new here was probably my biggest hurdle with writing this, because, to be honest, the Den was not one of the routes of the original release I'd played much of, having only done it once or twice, so I'll just speak to my experience with the new version of the route here, without trying to compare it directly to the way it used to be too heavily. If you end up in this route with the voice of the stubborn by fighting the beast until you're killed, then you'll have no choice but to fight the Den or flee. If you flee, you will fail, and the route will end, with the shifting mound taking the Den just before she can devour you. I do know from looking at some of my old footage that the original version of this fight, if you do choose to fight, was cut much shorter. Now you're given an option right around when the original fight ended between continuing to fight her with the Pristine blade, which the voice of the stubborn wants, or to fight her by embracing your instincts, which the voice of the hunted wants. Embracing your instincts means fighting her like a beast as well, with tooth and claw, rather than with a tool like the blade. If you keep fighting her with the blade, you'll be mortally wounded, but you will be able to kill her as well. As the two of you are dying, the shifting mound will take the Den away, and you'll head to speak with her. If you fight her while embracing your instincts, however, you'll end up realizing that both of you are able to regenerate, close your wounds, by feeding on each other's living flesh. As you animalistically tear each other apart and continue to regrow wounds, you'll fight each other to an eternal stalemate. Neither of you will ever win this battle, you'll just keep fighting and feeding on each other's pain forever. As the voice of the hunted puts it, though, from the perspective of survival, this is winning. You'll fight each other forever, but also survive forever in the process. There's a very different version of this route if you end up here with the voice of the skeptic instead of the voice of the stubborn, by dodging the beast's attacks repeatedly until she eventually mortally wounds you, without managing to fully devour you. Now, if you attempt to lure the Den from the shadows, and then run for the exit, you'll actually manage to escape to the tunnel. The Den will chase you, but due to her massive size, she'll get stuck. You can choose to kill her while she's stuck, or to leave her trapped, but you can also choose to see the sadness in her eyes, and choose to help her, pulling her free. If you do this correctly, the two of you will end up trapped under debris when the tunnel starts to collapse, but much to the narrator's surprise, the Den will end up protecting you from being crushed with her own much larger body. Together, the two of you can dig your way to freedom. At the end of the tunnel, when eventually freed, it initially seems like the den is going to leave you behind, but she does end up coming back and saving you, so the two of you can escape the cabin together. I like this version of the route. I like, thematically, this idea that the two of you are both able to overcome your instincts and struggle together to escape. It is the complete antithesis to the version of this route where you embrace your instincts and fight tooth and claw against each other, and I like that this route now manages to include both of these ideas. The third route to receive a complete overhaul is the Apotheosis. The Apotheosis is reached by dying to the princess without killing her in the first route, and then by surrendering to the tower, but letting her control you so that you slay yourself. In this route, the princess has fully ascended to godhood, erupting from the ground beneath the cabin as you approach it. Originally, you could choose to fight the Apotheosis or embrace oblivion, but either way, this route was cut very short compared to most, with the shifting mound quickly taking her. You can now choose to fight her or embrace her as your new goddess. Both options are interesting. The fight used to end just before it began, with you being pulled into the air by wind or simply by her gravitational orbit, but with her being taken before you could land any kind of blow. Now you can land on her and try to strike at her heart, only to realize her skin is impenetrable and be plucked from her like an insect. You can then throw the blade into her eye, wounding her, at which point the wounded Apotheosis falls to her knees and angrily begins to smite you. The narrator is burned away by her divine light, but then the shifting mound intervenes. The part of this new version of the route I really like, however, is the version where you choose to embrace her as your new goddess. She forgives you for your transgressions and places you on her shoulder, at which point she starts to cut through the very wall of the construct itself. This causes you agony since the construct is made out of the long quiet, which is to say, you. At this point, you can either choose to fight back against her or suffer through the pain. Since you are a true god and she is only an aspect of one, she's no match for the actual power of the Long Quiet, and you can trap her in it, cutting her escape attempt short. If you do suffer through the pain, however, then you and the Apotheosis can glimpse what lies beyond the construct. The world as it will be if you and the shifting mound choose to leave together at the end. Unfortunately for the Apotheosis, the shifting mound won't let one of her aspects leave. And so we see the shifting mound pull the Apotheosis down into a sea of shifting arms. I really like the scene of the Apotheosis being dragged away by the shifting mound, kicking and screaming. It's a pretty wonderful representation of how what the shifting mound is doing is a cruelty to each individual aspect of herself. It is only what she wants as a conglomeration. There's also something really powerful about watching the Apotheosis, who is supposed to be a goddess, completely outclassed by the near infinite powers of the shifting mound, a true god and aspect of the universe itself. It underlines that the Apotheosis is really only an imitation of the power the shifting mound as a whole has. I also really like this as foreshadowing for the ending and nature of the construct as a whole, since it is very possible players could get this on their first playthrough of the game, before the conversation with the Echo at the end really explains what's going on to you. In addition to the 3 versions of Chapter 3 which were greatly expanded, 3 entirely new versions of Chapter 3 are now available. These are Happily Ever After, which branches off of the Damsel, The Cage, which branches off of the Prisoner, and The Princess and the Dragon, which branches off of the Spectre. Happily Ever After is actually not classified as a Chapter 3 by the game, but rather as an epilogue. To get to this route, you need to start the deconstructed damsel by continuing to ask her what she wants, but then at the last moment before the deconstructed damsel would be claimed by the shifting mound, suggest the two of you simply stay in the cabin forever. When you suggest this, the damsel will reluctantly agree to it, but you can tell she's not enthused by the idea of staying with you in the cabin for all eternity. This upsets the voice of the smitten, who imagines the two of you as hopelessly in love with each other. He decides that the damsel will be thrilled with the idea if you can only show her what's in your heart. So he grabs at your chest and pulls it apart so you can show your still beating heart to her, which naturally kills you. The cabin in this route is represented as a giant cathedral with stained glass windows. In this route, and only in this route, stairs do not lead down into the basement, but up into an even more grand room where the princess waits. This epilogue chapter reminds me a lot of the classic Twilight Zone episode, A Nice Place to Visit, where a career criminal named Rocky Valentine is shot to death, and finds himself in what he believes to be heaven. Everything is given to him there. Money, women, all the food he can eat. When he goes to a casino, he finds that he can only win and never lose. Eventually, he grows bored of this life where everything is provided to him instantly, without any kind of struggle being possible, and he tells what he assumes to be the angel guiding him through his new life that he doesn't deserve heaven and wants to be sent to the other place. In response, the man says, "Heaven? Whatever gave you the idea you were in heaven, Mr. Valentine? This is the other place." Happily Ever After depicts a world where the princess and the Long Quiet can simply exist together in the cabin forever. It's beautiful, and everything they want is provided to them. This can be represented with a lavish feast, or if you refuse to eat what the princess has provided to you, as the two of you playing a board game together. At first, either option appears to be wonderful. The food is the best you've ever had, and the game is simple, intuitive, yet fun. The cracks in this paradise show almost immediately, though. Most of all, there's a strange, shadowy entity that holds the princess in place from the moment you see her, and once you've sat down, holds you in place as well, forcing you to enjoy this place together forever. Once you've finished eating, you find yourselves still hungry, and so you eat again. And it's good, again. Then you find yourself hungry once more, and so you eat again. And it's fine. It's all fine. The food is the same, but you've had it before. And then you go again, and it's terrible. As the voice of the hero puts it, you're tired of eating. The first time you play the game, it's fun. It's wonderful. The two of you have a great time playing this game together. Then you play again, and it's still fun. And then you go again, and it's grown boring. So the princess suggests you add some more pieces, make up some new rules, and you do, and it's fun all over again, as fun as it was when you started. But then the new pieces and the new rules grow stale, so the princess suggests new rules again, and the cycle repeats, until the two of you can't think of anything new to try. And so the game grows as insufferable as the food did. Each time one of these aspects grows boring, one of the 4 torches on the walls go out. The shadowy entity starts to fade as the light goes out. By now you've been able to deduce that this shadowy entity is the voice of the smitten, now missing from your head, and holding the two of you captive in what he thinks is the picture of domestic bliss for all eternity. After the feast and the game, the princess suggests the two of you simply spend time together, in silence, enjoying each other's presence. Eventually, though, that too goes stale, and another torch goes out. The princess panics as the last torch threatens to go out, not sure what will happen, what the two of you will be like without the smitten's obligation keeping you together. Eventually, though, that torch does go out, and the smitten is gone, leaving you in darkness. You can choose to slay the princess here, which she'll almost be relieved by, saying it's finally over. You can also, though, choose to leave with her, to dance underneath the stars together. She'll ask if you still love her once all of the torches have gone out. What you say is, of course, up to the player's interpretation of this relationship. Did you ever love her, or were the two of you just play-acting out of obligation? Do you still love her, even if the spark has died? Maybe you didn't love her before, but think you might be able to now that the obligation is gone. This route is so damn good. It's a really interesting depiction / symbolic representation of a dying relationship. Not necessarily an abusive or toxic one like the thorn can be interpreted to represent, just one that's fallen in a rut, with people who have fallen out of love but are staying together out of obligation. I see the smitten here as representing that obligation. That can be a lot of things. It could be society telling you that you found exactly what everyone wants, and so you ought to be grateful for it. Or it can be the expectations of your friends and family that you don't want to break. Or it could be having kids together. Or it could be any number of things that would keep a couple from admitting that there are problems there. Problems that are driving the two of them apart, even if they won't acknowledge it. The game, in particular, feels like a pretty clear representation of these two people's sex lives growing dull, and so they experiment with more and more things to try to revitalize it, but ultimately that too grows stale. It's an interesting and tasteful way of representing that idea. The relationship getting stale because it can't change and grow is a terrific way to point out how the world of the Long Quiet would be an ultimately stale place. The problem with this relationship is not the princess or the Long Quiet, necessarily, it's that they're stuck in one place. As a god of stasis, the Long Quiet contains many positive aspects, but this is a representation of one of his most negative aspects: stagnation, boredom. Perhaps the most powerful thing about all of this is that the narrator is with you and gets a glimpse of what the world he desires might actually look like. As he describes the stagnating relationship between the princess and the Long Quiet, he realizes just how miserable it is without any change. He finally comes to the realization that the world he wants might not be worth it after all. If you do choose to try to slay the princess once the torches go out, even the narrator tries to talk you out of it. The one and only time in the game that he will, because he's second-guessed his reality. It's a wonderful moment. It humanizes that character a lot. I also really like that once the torches are gone, and once that weight of expectation has been lifted, there are any number of ways you can choose to answer the princess asking if you still love her, and you can choose to move forward, hand in hand, without the weight of expectation, dancing under the stars. The torches going out might be a sign that the spark the two of you once had is gone, but the stars burn a lot brighter and hotter than those torches ever did, after all. It's a hopelessly romantic reading, but I see this as saying that it's never too late to find a new spark with the person you love, and fall back in love all over again if the two of you are willing to try together. This is one of my new favorite routes in the game. This is utterly spectacular. I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite route in the game because of recency bias and all that, but man, this is very, very good. Probably my favorite content from the update. The second brand new route in this update is called The Cage. This is specifically branching off of the version of the Prisoner's route where you let her cut off her own head, but do not take the head with you. When you do this, you'll be greeted with a variant of the happy ending, where the narrator tells you that now that the princess is dead, you get to sit in the cabin for all eternity. You can even get the happy ending card, but the voice of the skeptic will interrupt it and snap you back to the cabin, suggesting you slay yourself to break free of this prison. Doing so leads to the new route, which starts with one of the most evocative versions of the woods in the entire game. The trees now replaced with wooden poles, and the brush replaced with thick chains snaking across the entire environment like vines. When you get to the cabin interior, you find that it's completely made of chains now, and as soon as you step into it, you fall through the floor and end up with thick hooks holding you in air as the princess approaches, her decapitated body pulling her head behind her in a metal birdcage. As the princess approaches you, the chains wrapped around you will get tighter and tighter, until eventually the ones wrapped around your neck will tighten so much that the pressure will cause your head to pop right off. This isn't a death, however. Like the princess, you'll now end up as a still living but utterly helpless decapitated head. Your two bodies are both completely capable of acting on their own, and will begin to fight each other while you and the princess helplessly watch. The princess observes that while the two of you thought you were in control, it was really your bodies in control all along. So now they're able to continue fighting each other without either of you. She finds freedom in the resignation to her fate, her complete lack of control over what happens to her. It's pretty dark. I really dig this. I love the imagery here of heads not really being as in control of their bodies as they think they are. There's some truth in that literally. We like to think our consciousness controls us entirely, that we are our minds, but in reality that's a small part of our bodies, and we are still very much ruled by sensations like hunger, thirst, and pain. Again, there's shades of what the new version of the Fury hits on here, thematically. Are we our hunger and our thirst, as well as our thoughts? Aren't our bodies cages that our minds are trapped in? It's interesting, thought-provoking. It's also a really wonderful way of symbolizing this tragic cycle of violence the princess and the Long Quiet are caught in, forced to harm each other over and over again by circumstances completely out of their control. This route's ending also really adds to my favorite endings of the game, where you and the princess agree you want no part in this godlike struggle, like the loop ending or the ending where the two of you leave the construct. Just like you can choose to walk away from the whole situation and from this conflict between gods at the end of the game, here you watch together, detached, as your bodies fight out this struggle neither of you want any part of. It is possible to break free of the chains here if you immediately start trying as soon as you fall, and continue trying at every opportunity. Doing this will let you psychically visualize the chains as being rusty and brittle, which makes it so, allowing you to break free with the blade. I like this detail because it's one of the most concrete examples of how it's not only the princess changing based on your perception, but in fact everything in the construct that does change, like the cabin's interior or the woods. Breaking free lets you fight and slay this version of the princess, which will be significant when I talk about the new secret ending added with this update, but I generally like the version of this route where you end up decapitated like the princess is more overall. That leaves one new version of Chapter 3, another very non-standard one, called The Princess and the Dragon. This route branches off of the Spectre, which is the version of Chapter 2 you get when you initially walk in, immediately slay the princess without talking to her or hesitating, and then choose to slay yourself when presented with the option, instead of getting the happy ending of waiting out all of eternity in the cabin. When you return in Chapter 2, the princess is already long dead from when you first slayed her, but now she's become a ghost called the Spectre. The Spectre will ask that you make up for what you did in the first route by letting her possess you, so that the two of you can leave together. If you leave with her, then the route ends right there, while if you resist, she'll end up killing you eventually, and you'll wind up with the Wraith version of Chapter 3. Now, however, we have a new option when we let her possess us, slaying ourself with her inside of us. If you do this, she'll violently escape from our body right as we die, and in the process, she'll accidentally pull our consciousness along with her. Not any of the other voices or the narrator, just us. The Long Quiet's body will die and everything will reset into Chapter 3, but now we'll be stuck in the princess's body along with her and get to experience a chapter from her perspective. This is a phenomenal idea. It's an absolutely wonderful way of playing with the form of this game, and it gives us a ton of insight into both the princess and our player character. While the two of you are waiting for the Long Quiet's body to return to the basement, if you look down at the princess's body, you'll notice that it's not quite stable. It's partially translucent and still in the process of reforming. This is because the Long Quiet hasn't perceived her yet, so it isn't yet solidified what form the princess will take. Once the Long Quiet does appear, and you hear him pick up the blade from the table above, that's when we solidify into a concrete form. The decision has been made, and so what the princess will look like has been decided too. One of the first things you'll notice is that you don't get a title card for this chapter. That's because the princess isn't ever getting those, instead just stuck in the basement while we approach it. When you bring up that you normally get a title card around now, she'll suggest that the two of you should call this Chapter 3, The Princess and the Dragon, which is where the title comes from. The reason for this is that the player's form is far scarier than we might have realized. This is the best look we ever get at the Long Quiet's body, and from the princess's perspective, he is large and terrifying. I love the moment of him slowly creeping down the stairs and coming into view. Again, it's worth remembering this is potentially the first route a player will ever come across, and getting a look at the player character like this that early would really change how a new player thinks about what's going on in this game. Plus, it's just really creepy. The Long Quiet spends a long time blankly staring at the princess, because that's what she's been seeing every time we've spent time listening to or arguing with our various internal monologues. Once the Long Quiet's body does begin speaking, it's clear what's happening. Without you in charge, the three voices trapped in the body, not counting the narrator, are now in control, and the Long Quiet's body and even shadowed facial expression changes as they pop from character to character. The three voices I had inhabiting the body at this point were, of course, the voice of the hero, the voice of the cold, and the voice of the opportunist, and I love how they portray each of these voices, especially the opportunist's creepy, almost wolf-like grin. Eventually, even though they find out you are trapped in the princess's body with her, they decide to slay her anyway, and the moment the blade touches her chest, you are transported back into your own body along with the narrator and the other voices. At this point, you get three choices. You can slay the princess, leave with her, or lock her away in the basement. If you choose to leave with her, which is the choice I expect most players would make by now, having gotten a chance to bond with her, you'll be able to leave together hand in hand. My only criticism of this route overall is that I think this ending is just a little bit too similar to the Thorns ending, albeit a more upbeat version of it. It hits a lot of the same notes thematically, with you having hurt the princess once, but eventually the two of you coming to mutual understanding and choosing to leave the cabin behind together. Unlike, say, the version of Happily Ever After where the two of you leave together, this doesn't feel like it's hitting something wholly new thematically to me. I do love the Thorn ending though, so saying it's similar isn't a super fatal flaw, just a nitpick. Locking her away is actually the most upsetting ending to this route in my opinion. Upon realizing what you're doing, the princess will say with resignation, "What did I do to deserve you?" Even after realizing how terrible things are for her, and that she's not some horrible monster trying to end the world, you choose to let her suffer, not even to kill her and end her suffering. At this point, the shifting mound takes her, while you're looking away. My favorite ending of this, though, just in terms of seeing cool new content, is what happens if you choose to slay her here. As you strike the killing blow, the two of you fuse back together, as the Long Quiet and an aspect of the shifting mound reabsorb each other briefly. You suddenly see things from both perspectives. As the game puts it, you are the canvas and you are the painter. You are the victim and you are the victimizer. At the end, you look down at your hands and see both sets of hands at once, before the shifting mound takes this vessel from you. I love this shot of the shifting mound tearing away this aspect of her, which you've been reunited with. It's probably my favorite shot of the shifting mound taking a vessel in the game, rivaled only by that new version of the Apotheosis fighting against her. Again, if I put myself in the shoes of someone who might be playing this route during their first playthrough of the game, where you don't quite know what's going on with the shifting mound and the Long Quiet and their natures yet, this is some absolutely incredible foreshadowing for that ultimate reveal. I love it. Overall, this route is great, a wonderful addition to the game that really rounds out the princess's perspective on things. The idea of getting to see a route from the princess's perspective is perfect, and the execution is excellent. In addition to the major new playable content, the Pristine cut also adds a feature that I've desperately wanted since the original release, a CG gallery, here called Memories. If you're not a certified visual novel enjoyer, this is a fairly common feature that lets you simply click through a gallery to look at any of the art you've reached in the game. The implementation of this feature is excellent. It breaks up possible images by each princess, as well as giving special categories to Chapter 1, the shifting mound segments in between each route, and the endings. The gallery unlocks once you've beaten the game once, and any images or categories you haven't unlocked yet will instead give you a hint on how to unlock them. This is absolutely perfect for completionists, or if you just feel like doing another run, but aren't sure which routes you've missed content on. Previously, you could kind of tell this via achievements, but this is broken down by route in a much easier to parse way. The only unfortunate aspect of this feature is that nothing in it is unlocked retroactively, not even the gallery itself. Your saves should have carried over to the new version of the game just fine, but as far as the gallery unlocks are concerned, you've never touched the game before. The official word on this is that retroactive unlocks would have been far too buggy, and so while they tried to get them working, they decided they'd rather release the update as bug-free as possible, which I respect, but it is unfortunate. Between me writing that last paragraph on the day of release and me editing that paragraph the day after, there has been a hotfix that experimented with at least unlocking the gallery for players who have fully completed the game already, but also a rollback because that hotfix was causing crashes. So what I'm saying is, if you're watching this in the future and that's not an issue anymore, good. Maybe they found a workaround for it, but I can only speak to how it worked during my experience with the Pristine cut at launch. Hey Black Tabby, if you're watching this, you should make sure this features in Scarlet Hollow by the time you hit 1.0. The last major piece of new content is that in addition to all of the new and overhauled routes, a brand new secret ending has been added to the game. This ending requires you to kill the shifting mound without the help of any of the voices in your head, which is impossible under normal circumstances. Various routes in the game now have special conditions which, when met, will add a special dialogue option to your confrontation with that vessel when the shifting mound presents them at the end of the game. These special dialogue options are outlined with red rather than black. If you use these special dialogue options to respond to all 5 vessels, then you are able to defeat the shifting mound in your confrontation and can choose to kill her without any outside help. Doing this leads to an ending that's very similar to the standard ending where you slay the shifting mound by killing the first princess you met at her heart, but instead of an eternally burning star, you see an ocean with some sort of celestial body looming over the horizon. In this ending, you are all alone without any of the voices in your head ruling with you. The interesting thing about this version of the ending is how it is described, with your new world always moving but never decaying, which does seem to prove that there was enough of the shifting mound within the Long Quiet to at least sustain some kind of world without change after all. Still, I feel like the happily ever after ending exists to explain why this ending might sound very good, but is actually very bad. Things can't stay the same forever. They just can't, as much as we might want them to. That would be a living hell. At the time of writing, I don't think anyone has put together a full list of which routes have these new options hidden in them, but I can tell you what I did to get this ending. I'm specifically following what Reddit user Symbolic Butt, link in the description, said they did in a discussion thread to get the ending, so full credit goes to them for figuring it out. The steps I followed were: kill the happily ever after at the end of the chapter when all the torches go out. Free yourself from the chains in the cage route by trying to free yourself as soon as possible once you're captured, and then slay the cage. Fight the den, and do not choose to embrace your instincts. Do the stranger route, it doesn't seem like any special steps are required. Do the arms race version of the Razor's route, ultimately killing her at the end of chapter 4. These don't seem to be the only routes that unlock red dialogue options at the end. I have at the very least seen people say they got a red option by doing something in the new Apotheosis route, but these are the steps that I can confirm firsthand did work for me getting the ending. I like that this ending gives you a way to fight the shifting mound and slay her at the height of her power. It was always a little weird that despite the two of you ostensibly being gods of similar power, you weren't able to take her in a head-on fight in the original game. And I like the symmetry of there now being options to slay or leave with the shifting mound, and options to slay or leave with the princess at her heart. Beyond some clarification that the Long Quiet's world would still have movement, flow, and some amount of change, just not death, decay, or transformation, this ending doesn't really change my perspective on the game that much. I still think the world without the shifting mound is a dark one, and I think it could be argued that this lonely world where the Long Quiet doesn't even have the voices in his head to confide in is an even worse ending than the original version of the ending where you slay the shifting mound's heart. You can disagree with me on this though. As I said in my original video, Slay the Princess is a game with a big enough and complicated enough narrative that I think it supports plenty of valid interpretations. I didn't know where else to mention this, so it's worth saying at the end here that the Pristine Cut also adds 17 new songs to the game. The Pristine Cut soundtrack is already available on Spotify if you'd like to give it a listen, and also includes live orchestral performances of many of the songs from the original release. In general, I don't think the Pristine Cut radically alters my interpretation of the game as a whole or how I think of it. That's a good thing. I didn't want it to. Slay the Princess was already very nearly perfect. Even without this update, I thought it was a 10 out of 10 masterpiece that I've aggressively forced my real-life friends to try. What it does do, though, is flesh out some parts of the original game. Getting to experience a chapter from the princess's perspective, getting a chance to see the narrator change his mind when confronted with the stagnation of Happily Ever After, and getting an expanded version of the body horror evoked by the Fury, these things are all invaluable additions to the game. The Pristine Cut may not change my understanding of the game, but it certainly adds to it. There's always a danger when you have something that good, then go back and add to it or change things about it, that you'll accidentally ruin something, especially when you do things as major as adding new endings. I don't think that's the case here. Black Tabby knew exactly which things to change and expand about the original, and which things to leave the hell alone, and the result is that somehow a game I would have already called basically perfect is now somehow even better. This is said to be the final major content update for Slay the Princess. This is the final version of the game that's going to exist for years and years to come, and it's nice to finally be able to see the complete picture. What Black Tabby has accomplished with this game is monumental, and I think Slay the Princess is one of those indie games that's only going to gain popularity and esteem in years to come. I know I've hit this quite a few times between the two videos I've now made about this game, but I want to say it one more time just in case. If you have reached this point in the video and haven't played Slay the Princess yourself, please do. It's a very special game, and even if you've heard a whole lot about it and spoiled yourself on it, I still think it's a must-play. It gives you a lot to think about, it'll make you feel things, and I really think everyone should give it a try. If you liked this video and haven't already watched my full video covering Slay the Princess and Doki Doki Literature Club in depth, please go give it a look. I'm pretty proud of it, to be honest, and if you like Slay the Princess, I think you'd like it. If you have already watched that one, maybe consider heading over to my Patreon or joining as a YouTube channel member and giving $5 to access my supporter-exclusive videos, including one about the first 4 episodes of Black Tabby's other game, Scarlet Hollow. But hey, just having you here is more than enough, so thank you. Speaking of Patreon, special thanks to those patrons and channel members who help me keep making videos. Raxarox, Edward Clayton Andrews, Strix 2031, Mikaru X, Unhealthy Caillou, Sean Kolb, Sir Darkon, Rachel Aurelia, Young Sorcerer 23, Ghassan Abunura, Patrizia Ferbretti, Sninkelberg, Taylor Blair, Frondi, Yo-Yo Jojo Mojo, Tsai Voafehi, Dan Luther, Still Just Cow, Jose Armalas, William, Cabbage, Rekka, Alex Smith, Picayune, Hakan Boyam, Pete Lee, Knitted, Shiny Empty Head, That's All, Alex, Bell Mage, and Malachi Murphy. I've seen a lot of new names on the supporter lists since the Doki Doki Literature Club Slay the Princess video, so I wanted to specifically say thank you to everyone new to this list who's given money. It means a whole lot. I have another video coming in the very, very near future, probably within the next week, about a horror game I've seen people ask me to cover many times before, so please subscribe to stay tuned for that. Until next time, take care.